questions about the Ryan Lochte case, lots of different stories from all sides. But we were also wondering what happens when average Americans get detained in foreign countries and they don't have the USA Today, everybody coming to investigate and help them out, and a bunch of lawyers that can call. Well, here to help us out is a local attorney who is well known for handling rather high-profile cases. Plus, he just came back from the Olympic Games in Rio. We may just suspect that John Phillips was over there helping out Ryan Lochte.
You never know.
Interesting coincidence that you were there.
He didn't call it. I didn't have a suit with me. But you see what I did for you guys? I dyed my beard gray.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, you did?
John, you are always on fleek. I will tell you that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about you. You went to Rio. What was your experience? Everybody was kind of expecting the worst. You heard some negative stories.
We waited a week to see what was going on with Zika because you know we're still in the childbearing age. I'm not. Well, I guess I am. My wife is the one that bears.
You're still planning a family.
We've got 2 kids. We were looking to see where the guns were pointed and that whole deal, and everything was fine. And we went and had an amazing trip. No problems whatsoever.
Who's this with you?
That's Mike Tirico and Al Michaels.
Oh, wow.
That was at a Churrascaria, the big steakhouse.
Oh,
and that's at the U.S. volleyball match.
What's on your jacket?
The stars. That's a Vineyard Vines star jacket, plug. So much fun. Those are some Brazilians we met. This was a guy dressed as a torch, carrying a little miniature Usain Bolt. It was just, it was a blast. There's my international diplomacy picture. But it was fantastic. The weather was perfect.
Oh, that's great.
We fake pole vaulted, as you see.
Nice.
But it was, it was just a great experience. Here's my "Who's Resting Ryan Lochte Next" photo.
I love these captions you're giving.
And, Facebook. I've already used all these lines, so I haven't used them before your audience. So it's, it was a blast. And everybody says if you travel, try the Olympics because you get to see, especially right now with what we're dealing with as a country, you get to see the best of people, and you get to see that we're not hated, we're not feared, and we have a place right alongside, and America's great. It really is.
See, that surprised me that you say they don't hate us, because I always feel like there's so much pressure on being an American in a foreign country during the Olympic Games.
There is, and you see, when you travel, you see the kind of people that wear the T-shirts that don't try to assimilate. The first word I learned was obrigado. Thank you. And you make an effort to try to speak their language and just make an effort. The beauty of Uber now is you don't even have to communicate. You can sit in an Uber, punch where you're going, go.
Boom, you go.
And in every instance in our Uber, and I was like, Angela, do they listen to slow jams on purpose? Or is this like, are they playing slow jams in English for us? Because every Uber driver had, like Barry White on. And I'm like,
really?
This is great.
Well, it is South America.
So,
Rio.
we, number 3 may be on the way, and we avoided Zika. So we'll see.
Nice.
What was your favorite sport to go to?
Blush.
You went to a few, right?
We did beach volleyball. We saw Team USA in basketball. I had never seen handball before, and we won a silent auction with Team Handball, USA Handball, and that was amazing. We saw some diving. It was a diverse trip.
All right. Well, you had a cool time. We're really jealous. So now let's jump back into the Ryan
Let's do
Lochte
it.
mess. How unusual is it for somebody to actually be taken off a plane? You hear about this a few times, or I have anyway. I mean, how unusual is that?
The only time,
and if they're speaking Portuguese, what do you do?
Right, and that's part of the issue. The only time you see it in America is if you're acting up on the plane, because they have to have an arrest warrant, right? So you're not going to see, in our country, by our standards, that happen. You got to realize when you're in a different country, you have different rules, and sometimes those rules aren't even written down. They're what the guards are thinking at the time, or they're subject to bribery, or they're subject to corruption, or they're subject to a judge being the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, like we kind of had with these arrest warrants, or pull their passports, pull their ability to leave until we've had our conversation. That would never happen here. Heck, it seems like we just want to push them out, but it's tough to see. I think we were actually on the plane that Jimmy got on once he was released, and we pretty much identified him, and he was like not in USA gear, just kind of let me get home and get back to my family.
I bet after he just spent $11,000 to get out of, or 11,000, wasn't it?
It was 11,000
yes.
US. Real is 3.2 to 1, so that was where those
And
other
John,
numbers.
do you think that the Rio authorities went after them so aggressively because they made up this story that made them look bad? Had they not said anything? Had they got out of the country? Had they not said we were robbed at gunpoint, which was the big fear of everybody?
Right.
Do you think this was more retaliatory than it was there was actual damage and you've got to pay for this and this is how the laws in this country work?
You do PR and you know storytelling, and we do legal PR. I mean, everything's a story to what we tell. You know, the family law, the criminal, the personal injury, and the snowball started with Ryan embellishing something to his mom on a hangover. That's really where it started. I'm hungover, Mom, I had a bad night, and they pulled a gun on me. And then Mama told the AP or somebody, did a press release, and then Ryan had to stick with that story, and he's
Ryan told Billy Bush and USA and the Today Show.
He's had some of that peroxide leak into his brain or something that, you know, it didn't quite, he was embellishing, or he had the Kardashian syndrome where he felt like he had to make himself even, you know, cooler than he was.
The Kardashian
and you know, that snowball poured down such that you forced their hand. And people don't want Americans to get away with anything else. That's what people feel like. We bomb where we want, we eat what we want, we do what we want, we take what we want. We force our movies on other cultures. We force our music, and they're like, hold on. This gray-haired weirdo isn't going to do that here.
So let me ask you this. What should they have done once Lochte, after he said this to his mom, what should they have done immediately? You heard me mention a little bit earlier. I thought Fegan's his press release was that's my thought of what they should have done first. From a legal standpoint, what is your thought?
Whether you're Ryan Lochte or John Doe, the first thing you do when you go to a country is write the embassy's number in your passport. Just go ahead and write, and you got plenty of pages. Just have one that you write the embassies, and you have them listed, unless you're going that many. And that's the first call you make.
To the embassy, not
if you're
like
a regular
lawyer?
American.
Correct, because they can hook you up with an English-speaking lawyer. Because the problem there is if you don't speak Portuguese and you have the Portuguese lawyers, and if you read in between the lines of what was interpreted that they said, they're right there with those judges. They're not going to embarrass those judges and call the judges that they have to be out in front of every day over some American kid that just paid them $1,500. So, you know, write the embassy down.
What if it's at 1 o'clock in the morning?
You know, you would hope if you're high profile enough that you have a lawyer or an agent or somebody that they could give you advice. You know, heck, I was right there, but nobody knew I was right there. You know, but I could have. You know, Brian's a Florida resident.
But just like Jimmy Fagan, he actually signed an affidavit which was written in Portuguese. So he gave his statement, they wrote it in Portuguese and said sign. So he had no idea what he signed.
No idea, with some degree of duress, because they can say what they want. And that's kind of the problem of the situation is, you know, you've got to go in knowing, and years ago it was Singapore and caning, you know, they affect their own rules of discipline and their own rules of law. And we're used to saying, but I'm an American, I have rights. Well, no, you don't, not on their soil.
So, John, before we wrap up, is the bottom line, if you're an American in a foreign country, that is not the time to decide you want to break the law.
No, save the public intoxication, public urination for when you're back here. Actually, don't. But you know, the other side of it is, who hasn't been to a gross bathroom that has vandalism in it? And they're going to get blamed for every little piece of it because they're putting themselves in a bad situation. And as you know, Mom always said, if you put yourself in a bad situation, bad things are going to happen. And you just got to be smarter than do that in a foreign country.
My mom always says be home before midnight because nothing good happens after midnight.
Same logic.
Can you imagine how bad his mom must feel? Ryan liked his mom after she opened up her mouth to the AP, and that's when it started.
Before you talked to the meeting, we dealt with it, Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis had died and had been killed, and before they could bury their son, they had CNN, all three networks on their way down to talk to the family. And that was why they called me, was just to say, hold on, let me see what I need to do, because that's the crisis management aspect. No matter what your situation is, pause, don't talk, because once you talk, you can't take those words back.
That's right.
Yeah,
that was
Ryan should have never done the interview with Billy Bush.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. And for more information about John and his law firm, visit knowthelawyer.com. All right, well, coming up next, something you may not have given a lot of thought to, business lunch etiquette. We are going to teach you some very important basics you do not want